How much control do you need to have over your life? Do you simply accept every single thing that happens to you and you just go with the flow, do whatever you want? Or do you apply lots of willpower and micromanage every single experience that you participate in? So in this video, I'm going to address this conflict and help you to discover how to get unstuck from this dilemma, how to start moving forward in life, how to get into this state of balance where you do apply acceptance and you do apply, kind of this attitude of going with the flow, but at the same time, you are able to take control over the most important details in your life. So when it comes to changing your life or taking control over your life, lots of people will tell you that, okay, so you need to change your job, maybe you need to work on your relationships, or you need to move to a different location. From my perspective, I believe that most of the changes that we can make in our lives, most of the things that we can influence in our lives externally, start within ourselves, so within our minds. Your mind can be broken down into your unconscious mind and subconscious mind. And this part of your brain deals with very automatic processing of information. Contains your belief systems, your kind of unconscious maybe feelings or emotions or attitudes, maybe also, prejudices, judgments, evaluations about certain things. So this part of your brain can be very helpful when it comes to, making quick decisions, reacting to things. But also the negative side of this is kind of jumping to conclusions, making assumptions about things, filling the gaps when you don't have enough information. Contrary to that, there is also your conscious mind. So your conscious mind or conscious part of your mind is the one that can make decision. I'm not saying that it always does that because of the influence of the unconscious part of the mind, but it has that ability to make conscious decisions. Using that conscious mind also allows you to evaluate your belief system, your automatic patterns of thinking and behaving and feeling. So having this idea in mind, if we don't apply enough of that conscious self-reflection, conscious decision-making, what we're doing is that we fall into this unconscious way of living by default. And it doesn't have to seem that way, like you are completely running on autopilot. But effectively, since you're watching this video, you're probably interested in getting unstuck, gaining that control. So what happens is that if we use this kind of system or this idea of the unconscious and conscious mind, you see what happens is that we are all prone to repeating patterns, repeating certain things again and again. And even if we do seem like we are conscious, we are aware that we know what's going on, essentially we are all vulnerable to this mechanism of repeating certain things, repeating the same thoughts, repeating the same beliefs, and being subjected to these unconscious mechanisms that are quite difficult to grasp on a conscious level. We don't even have the capacity of the conscious mind to, pay attention to every single computation that our unconscious mind is making. But there are things that we can do to start changing things, to start shifting things in our immediate reality, in our immediate experience, that will allow us to start moving forward. So one of the mechanisms that can possibly keep us stuck is something called priming. So priming is this idea in psychology that one stimulus influences our attitude or our likelihood to pick another one. So for example, if you're bombarded with messages of fear, you're going to be more likely to associate other things with that fear as well. This is just a very simple example, but it just illustrates how prone we can be to this unconscious mechanism that can keep us stuck. So with priming, the default is that we rarely pay attention to how are we primed, or what was the influence of our previous experience on our current experience. So what happens is that, as you can see, that kind of creates this chain of events where we are not even sure where our thoughts come from, why we're feeling in a particular way, why we're believing in certain things in our lives. So even though we might seem like we are very conscious in the present moment, maybe we're practicing mindfulness, or we seem very aware of what's going on, that awareness rarely stretches beyond that present moment, for example, and helps us to make sense of the chain of events that led us to that particular experience or situation. So this whole idea of priming also leads us to the whole idea of cognitive biases, and one of them is self-confirmation bias. So let's say you've been primed with messages that maybe life is difficult, life is unfair, you can't get out of the situation because for a variety of reasons. But let's say that that's the original messages maybe you received from your peers or your parents that got stuck for you and led to this chain of events. So later on, what happens is that with this kind of priming, you're going to be looking for confirmation of these original messages. Because again, as I was saying, when it comes to the unconscious mind needs to have this coherence, needs things to make sense. So because of this need for the coherence, you're going to be looking for confirming things for you, for confirming your beliefs, for confirming your maybe your feelings or your judgments. So with this idea of self-confirmation bias, it's just very easy to get stuck in your own experience, in your own perspective or perception, how you interpret things, how you make sense of your experience, what you believe is the right thing to do, what is wrong thing to do, maybe what you like, what you dislike. So another thing is that you can also use priming for positive things in your life. So to make positive changes, to take control of your life, you need to start receiving different kind of messages, different kind of evidence that will start putting you in a position of where you start moving forward, when you start making this change. And that includes looking for evidence that confirm something different to what you believe right now. So you need to be willing to go more towards, uncertainty or ambivalence, to start noticing things that contradict your point of view, contradict your beliefs. So that's one aspect of how you can use priming to kind of shift, make these shifts or changes in your life. Another thing is that you can get very specific and start using priming for very specific things. So for example, for improving your mood, for changing how you think about certain things, for getting you into a state of maybe productivity or creativity or discipline, whatever is important to you. It's important to notice how you are, what sort of messages you're giving yourself, and also it's quite important to notice the context in which you are experiencing things. So what I mean by that is that experiments show that even this, the physical state of your body or the environment you are in will influence how you judge things, how you interpret things, how you make sense of certain things. So, a very simple example of this process is that, if you're cold or if you're hungry, you're going to be negatively evaluating certain experiences in your life. But the moment your physical state change, then you're going to start interpreting these very same experiences as something very positive, something good. So the key point here is that when we experience, for example, things like anxiety or depression or low self-esteem, what happens is that we get into this tunnel vision of looking at our experiences and life in general from this one set in stone perspective that is marked by specific beliefs, specific thoughts, specific conclusions. But we believe that this perspective is the ultimate truth, that is how life is, that is how our experience is. And it's difficult perhaps for us in such situation to see things from a different perspective, but actually seeing things from a different perspective is very often a solution to our struggle with this maybe challenging emotional state, or generally with maybe feeling stuck or on feeling out of control. So kind of willingness to take a step back, to look things from a broader picture, that already starts losing things up, basically. So what I mean by that is that when we start becoming a bit more flexible when it comes to interpreting our experiences or judging what is right or wrong for us, that's when we are open to change. That's where we are open to possibilities. That's where we can welcome new beliefs, new interpretations. But again, as I emphasized before, changing this context, opening ourselves up to these possibilities, it takes effort, because our unconscious mind wants to default on, sameness, familiarity, doing the same things over and over again, because it doesn't cost any energy to do so. So in short, to start making changes in your life, to start regaining control over your life, getting unstuck, you can use this process, an idea and theory of priming, that will help you to shift your perspective, start noticing more things that are outside your vision, outside your tunnel vision, that keeps you in one experiences, keeps you in one perspective. But it takes willingness to accept that maybe your perspective, maybe your beliefs are not entirely true, and they're not really reflecting the reality, that there is maybe more to what you believe is true, to what you believe is right. Not only about the world, but most importantly about yourself as well. Because each of us tends to have and tends to get attached to this particular maybe traits or characteristics of who we believe we are, what our skills are. But because of priming, there is this possibility that we might get stuck in this one perspective, and we might fail to notice how certain things already changed for us, how we maybe improved since, childhood or for the last 5 or 10 years. So it's important to be willing to go into this unknown and maybe uncertainty. My name is Joanna, and I'm a developmental coach. I help people with developing a clear vision for life, expanding their self-awareness, and growing into a new version of themselves. Thank you so much for watching.